Welcome everyone to this Ask Me Anything session with Ritu Chowdhary on test automation. I'll give a detailed introduction about her during the end of the slides, but she's currently a director, India head at quality control at Ubisoft. She's leading a team of about 800 people there and doing a bunch of great stuff. Before we move on, huge shout out to Browser Stack, premier sponsor for all our conferences and exclusive sponsor for all our community events. It's because of companies like BrowserStack that we're able to do all these events with such high frequency and consistency and scale, repeatedly free for our community members. About Ritu, Ritu is a seasoned professional who's currently working as director, India head quality control at Ubisoft. Over her career, she has worked with some of the marquee companies like Pfizer, Fidelity, to name a few. Her career spans close to 20 years now. Close to 20 years now, and it's a great honor to have her with us here and discuss about test automation and your apprehensions, your queries. So with that, let me welcome Ritu on stage. Hi Ritu, you're on stage now.
Hello, everyone.
Hi Ritu, thank you for doing this. So let's get started straight into business. Okay. First question. Okay, you have worked over 20 years in IT, started as a lecturer in college, and then into testing, and now you test automation in general. Now you're leading a mammoth team of 800 people at Ubisoft. So how has testing as a field evolved over the last 20 years? Of course, we're seeing a major shift today with AI and generative AI coming in. But how do you see the field evolving over the last 20 years of your career?
Well, if I stay honest, I think the fundamentals have remained the same. The thought process around testing, the significance, why we test, that remains same. However, testing as a field has evolved a lot in terms of technology, the way we test, more of shift left, the early we are getting involved. In fact, and this is happening because of the impact that the testing community is creating. If we go back, like in fact when I started, and if we go prior to that, what I have heard from my seniors also, at the time people who were developing were testing it out. Okay, that was very very straight, and the same concept we are again getting into, wherein we are creating scrum teams and we are expecting the developers more of people to test it out and move to production, more of t-shaped kind of a skill wherein people are still working onto the areas and moving. So things, the fundamentals remain same. What I have observed is the way of working is continuously evolving, and testing is getting more and more focus, because we are understanding the implications of, if we don't test the product enough and we are getting into the market, how it is costing us. So we are getting all those different stakeholders together into an organization and working more and more to enhance, so that focus on our production data, analyzing more of the defects that we get it in production, fixing it out earlier, how we can take more preventive action. that
Correct.
is that has tremendously evolved, I see. And
Hmm.
with changing tech landscape coming, AI ML, more of newer trends, the kind of insights they provide us definitely is giving more and more use cases in the testing arena as well, to automate those workflows and take more preventive actions.
God, I think that's a very valid summary of what has evolved over 20 years. So I've seen for 15 years, 5 years lesser than you. But I think what you stressed in the beginning itself is very important, that the fundamentals have not changed. And with the increase in that race towards learning automation, AI, a lot of stuff, folks who are starting today are forgetting the fundamentals itself, that they want to become more like developers, yet not understanding the fundamentals. I think that has helped a lot. That helped a lot for people to understand and get more clarity from someone who's been in the industry for quite some time. Uh, okay, this is a question not in the list, but I have this in my head. Okay, uh, is there a particular time frame in someone's career when they should move towards test automation? It's like you start to learn the craft first, and then you once you are pretty sure of your craft, then you move towards test automation. So, is there a typical experience range which you recommend to people to, okay, this much time you should spend in manual in understanding the craft first, and then moving towards test automation? Is that something which you recommend to people?
I won't call it as, there is a particular time frame that dictates that now you have done enough of manual testing and you should be moving to automation. What I strongly believe, and also in my experience, I've been leading the testing COEs, you know, what we have analyzed is it is the individual strength that defines whether the person is good to test the product manually, because over the time you really cannot deny 20 years of product testing experience or that product domain knowledge with automation. Automation could be helping out solving a lot of problems, but you really cannot compare these two things. So that's
Correct.
where, coming back to your ask, I would not say that there is a specific time, but definitely that depends on to the interest area, that depends on to the skill set of people who are involved, and we should always focus on what are the areas that we want to target, what are the areas wherein we are looking forward to grow. If automation interest, it is definitely advisable to grow the career in automation. But I mean, being a starting as a manual tester, I'll never deny the significance of manual tester. And in fact, I refrain to use this term manual. A tester is a
Yeah,
tester, whether you are trying to achieve it with automation or you are
correct.
testing out the product yourself. I mean,
Correct.
both holds
Yeah,
equal
yeah.
weightage.
Yeah, I think that they cannot be compared. Both of them are required. While one helps you understand the craft and debug and get find more bugs around your software, other helps you in being more efficient and being more effective in your task and helps to automate redundant tasks. Very valid points. Okay, so let's say, what are the typical mistakes? Let's say if I have to ask you top three mistakes which people do when they approach test automation, what would the top three mistakes be?
If I, look at mistakes, in my experience, what I have observed is a lot of time when we form the automation team, or in fact as a part of COEs as well, we bring together the experts. The common fundamental problem that I have seen is, because the technology is such a changing, such, such dynamically the technology is changing, a lot of time people want to try out things because they have to learn, instead of focusing more onto what value proposition the existing solution will put up. There could be very very simple solutions to automate. Okay, you can automate your product, or the testing aspect of the product in a very straight simple manner, but we don't opt for those. We actually look for, this is something new running in the market, and it will give me an exposure to the behavior driven framework. Let me try it out. So we try to complicate the things. This is a lot of time we have to actually pitch into the meetings and make people
Correct.
understand. You don't have to try out everything that is running in the market. It is good to understand what applies what, but look at what are the kind of resources available, what is your problem domain, and then try to work out the solution.
God.
Second problem statement that I have seen is, because we have people who are so enthusiastic to, develop automation solutions, they'll just start doing it without putting a strategy in place for the product. They'll just start doing it. So I have come across solutions, these kind of solutions wherein over the time, 2 or 3 years, in pockets, the team has developed a lot of automation scripts. Now the strategy here is wherever you see an opportunity, you automate it out. Now, overall, if I look at the solution, while we have invested a lot, the solution neither is scalable to other products, nor it is helping me out to, add that particular solution either to my CI pipeline or integrate it with other products. So without thinking, when we start doing things, because we are so into, and this is in my scope, let me test it out and work out a solution, that itself also creates a problem at times.
Yeah, I think that's very valid point, because I think both of the points are quite related in the sense that a lot of trying times we try to do because A, it's new into the market, and B, it will look good on our individual CVs, not addressing the problem at hand. I think both of them are very valid points. And the third mistake which people typically do, Ritu.
Third, I would say there are problems that we encounter regarding the test data management aspect of it. We don't think through enough when we are creating our solutions, how we would be merging out our test data solutions, how we would be creating those solutions. We are core focused only onto the automation aspect of it, and we miss that aspect on how we would be integrating test data solutions, or when we are migrating our automation or pointing out the automation to different environments, how we would be leveraging the assets that we have created or the assets that we may need. That is a core problem. That, see, again, it is pointing back to the basics. We don't give enough thought to what is my core framework, or what would be my core strategy, how am I working, what are the environments we should be leveraging, what would be the timing, when we are going to be executing. We don't give enough thought process over there.
God, I think that's a valid point, and that is a good segue into my next question is about how do you overcome the challenges of the data management test environment, especially in the purview of test automation. If you could share some tips with the folks here.
See, test data management, I'll brief you because I have worked in both the scenarios wherein I have seen the centralized test data management teams while working for different bigger, larger business units. We created centralized test data units which will cater to entire business units, test data requirements, as well as the individual things that the test automation teams struggle with. So, first thing that I'll talk about is forming a centralized approach towards test data management. Because we have got a lot of people who are working onto it, we create a centralized testing team. Now the testing team is having the protocol. You who send out the request, they have a standard SLA and they'll respond you accordingly. However, the core flaw here is the way we are moving to our scrum teams or in sprint automation, or more of trying to plug in the solutions in our CI/CD pipeline. The volume of data request keeps on getting higher and higher. So the length of data provisioning cycle also increases. So this hampers our CI aspect of it and creates challenges with that. Okay. But however, if you look at standalone, like everybody creates their own test data, so there also we have encountered a lot of challenges, because people need to understand, you cannot be reaching out to production teams for test data requests all the time. Everybody has their day job. You really cannot be reaching out all the time. You need to identify the proper formats, how you are extracting the data. And coming from the BFSI background, I really I'm keen to talk about areas wherein we knowingly or unintentionally we may get into compromised data privacy as well,
Right.
because financial areas, we really get to deal with a lot of sensitive information as well. So is the data masking done properly? Are we looking at into geo-specific government regulatory needs? Are we looking into those aspects? Are we following proper encryption techniques? There are no data leakage options.
uh,
uh, if what are the to safeguard the customer data, there could be a lot of regulations in place. Now probably a particular bank demands that you really can't keep those test data locally onto your machine, while it is for your testing requirements as well. You're expected to keep it on a centralized location in cloud, which only few of the folks will have access. Now in a testing team, test automation team, you while a lot of time during automation we create users, the execution users, which would be automatically logging in, picking up the test data file, and then executing it. However, my data compliance needs clearly says the data will be accessible to few of the users. So
correct.
knowingly or unknowingly, are we violating those? And at times the data is really really critical, whether it is masked, but you don't know if there is an unauthorized access, and how that data could be leveraged or misused. So we really need to have proper awareness, and the team needs to be educated about how test data has to be managed, how critical the data that is coming to us, and with the data privacy laws and regulations coming into the picture, what are the standard ways to request the data, how we are working it out. And definitely it should not be an obstacle to
The testing process in general.
testing process or increasing my testing life cycle.
Client,
So we
client,
have to balance it out.
correct. But yeah, but I think that's a very valid point, which is very less talked in the testing industry is about data privacy in general. That while we talk about centralized depositories and versioning and stuff like that, but we don't talk about how data privacy is as important in test environment also as it is in server environment, production environment. So I think that's a very valid point. Okay, moving from test data to a more tools and framework landscape. Okay, as we see, the tools and framework landscape is evolving very rapidly. There are tools coming in. There are open source tools, there are commercial tools, there are no code tools, there are low code tools, there are AI based tools. So what's your typical strategy into how would you suggest newer teams rather to decide and pick their automation stack out of so many options these days? There is a whole ocean of tools, right? No code, low code, open source, commercial. How do you suggest new teams to pick their automation stack in general? What kind of parameters they should think about?
That's a very very interesting thing, because whenever we are going to start with it, always there is a discussion. See, I've worked in both the environments, like more towards the product team as well, wherein we would have our in-house automation team. So we will have our testing core test automation experts who might be homegrown or we have hired from the industry. Okay, and also I have worked on consulting assignments wherein the banks are there, and then we as automation experts or consultants go and provide the solutioning aspect of it. Okay, both the cases, what we need to focus is what are our key requirements, what is it that the organization want to achieve, what is the
Correct.
budget, what are the timelines. These are the things that people don't see, and that's where the core discussion need to happen. If we are going for licensed version of tools, how much, how many licenses, what duration, what sort of products we are targeting, what is the long term sustainability. You do the automation, you definitely need to maintain the scripts. It's not something that the license is for 1 year or 2 year or 3 year, multi-year investment that you are doing. What happens next when the license expires? What happens to the product? So all of those things need to be included, thought through. What is the complexity of the system, how much automation we are targeting? And automation is never a very short term investment or a
Correct.
short term effort. It is not something that I hire a team of automation, they'll do automation for 6 months and I'm done. No, it's not, it doesn't work that way. It has to be thought through purely. So now coming back to the initial aspect that I talked about, when we are doing it in house, okay, we also need to consider the kind of tools or skills we are investing in. Are we going to
Correct.
train the in house people, or are we going to hire these experts from market? That cost also needs to be thought through. See,
Correct.
effectively everything boils down to cost. We have to identify, we have to identify what sort of goals we are trying to achieve, what are the organizational priorities, and what sort of alignments we have in place, and then our strategy needs to be thought through. Same similar kind of experience while working as a test consultant, and we have all of these resources and skills and everything available. But when we are working out with your clients or customers, what are the core problem that they are trying to solve should be the focus area, and depending on that you need to go for sustainable test automation solutions that would be helpful to them. So
Mm.
it depends purely case to case. We need to understand the problem landscape, understand why people are going for automation, what are the problems that they are trying to focus on, and depending on that the solutions should be adopted.
God, while you were speaking about licenses and stuff like that, I got reminded of a story recently. I met someone. He said he was working on a client project. He recommended a certain tool to the client that we should use this tool, and this is very good and stuff like that. And then the tool company, they sunsetted the whole tool itself. So
Yeah,
his credibility was his reputation was at stake then, and he seems that I won't recommend a tool from now on because the companies can do anything to tools, and it hampers it becomes a reputational risk for the person and for the vendor company also in general, right? Because it's on credibility. And I think those are two very important points on one in developing sustainable automation solutions, and one on being very mindful of the cost you're trying to invest while you do test
yeah,
automation, because the results of test automation takes months, if not years, to
yes, I would say
suffice.
yes. Yeah,
If to suffice. So, and it's not that you invested once in month one, you start to see the results. You have to invest in maintenance and licenses and scaling up and stuff like that.
absolutely.
Very well.
So this is an ecosystem that you are developing, and you really cannot be expecting very fast results. Of course,
Correct. Correct.
you get value out of it, you get result out of it, but you need to have patience for getting the fruits what you have reaped.
Correct.
You
I think
will get it. Patience is the key.
key patience is the keyword, because we've seen our leadership asking, okay, when will we find bugs through automation? When will we see the results through automation? And that creates unnecessary pressure into teams. And I think that's a very valid point. I think this could be a good entry point, because now we realize that test automation is costly. It costs us. It also is a reputational risk, because if the solutions don't sustain, there will be reputational risk. Okay, then so my next question to you, Ritu, is what are the top five of the common costly mistakes that the teams should avoid when designing and implementing test automation? Because test automation is a huge cost, both in actual dollar value and B also in terms of the reputation of the company. So, what are the five mistakes which people should avoid in designing the test automation framework for their companies? Five or
If
three, three,
I,
three.
yeah,
Five is a lot. Three,
yeah, I'm
three.
I'm just putting it up in what order I should go. So I was thinking through that. See, first common thing that I have seen is people don't give, you know, uh, adequate efforts in planning out the strategy. What are the objectives or goals that they are trying to achieve with automation? What are the kind of tools, frameworks they should be investing in? What their goals are? We really need to be very clear around the expectation. What is it that we are trying to achieve? And second core problem that happens is usually what I have seen in organizations is, okay, because everybody is transforming, we need to transform, we need to automate everything, we form a separate unit that would be doing out the transformation. We while we have clarity in goals, we give very clear goals to this automation team, The job of the automation team is to start interacting with individual units and start working onto the core things. However, this is this may or may not be the priority of the business unit, and
Correct.
never an alignment was done with them. So
Correct.
plugging in that automation may be slowing down my testing cycle or my go to market time. So, see, for example, I may have an automation team which is working out onto a lot of things, and I make a criteria, an exit criteria or the in sprint criteria. Till the automation is not done, the feature is not accepted. Okay. While for the product owner, the feature is fully tested, is a good to go criteria. And automation may need thought through thinking. So there have been always a continuous debate, and that's where people have to understand the leadership. This is core onto the leadership. They have to understand, are they aligning the entire
Correct.
organization and making it the priority of the organization that the message is floating top through. And it is not only the responsibility of the automation team to ensure things are falling in place. Because see, if the team is not falling through one sprint or two sprint and then you start creating your backlog, trust me, the motivation of the automation team also goes down, and it creates a lot of trouble. So the third thing that I would add up here is clear understanding. You said something.
No, no, I'm not saying something. Please go
Okay.
ahead.
The third thing that I would say is clear understanding in terms of expectations. Even, is the automation team spending enough time to understand their problem space and then putting up their entire strategy together or not? Because that is a area wherein I have seen gaps a lot of time, you know. Because usually automation is a skill set that in product organizations, we have all the product champions, product experts, but automations we usually hire. Now we have hired people from outside. They are, it's been a month, 2 month, 3 months, they have joined, and now because they have to prove themselves and work onto their first project, they immediately jump onto automation without understanding what the core product is, what are the core problem areas. So they really need to spend time to understand, with product people, what are the core areas wherein we should invest more time in automation. And there could be certain situations which need not to be automated. We need not to aim for 100% coverage. I remember one of my boss, when putting up the requirements, all that he said, what I want is, this entire application should be tested through. And overnight, when you are going in the evening, you should put the regression run on. And when I come in the morning, entire thing should be tested, reports, and then reports should be auto printed and coming out onto my desk.
Correct.
See, you have to understand what is it that you want to do. Are you trying to aim 100%? Are you trying to add up unrealistic scenario because your application might be integrating with third party wherein manual triggers are required? I mean, why do you have to get in putting in effort in areas which may be too tricky? You really
Too
need to
tricky.
identify your battles and identify where you want to invest. And then the
Correct.
next thing that I would say is, still a lot of people heavily invest on UI automation. See, I come from API background. I think
Yeah.
I've done API testing for more than 15 years in my career. Initially, after 2 years of UI, I moved to backend aspect of it, and you can achieve robust API test automation solutions. Why do you have to thoroughly invest on UI, which keeps changing every 5 to 10 years? Why do you have to actually get more onto that UI automation, which can be tested in very less manual effort? You should be core focused on your functional aspect, which you can achieve via backend solutions that are available. You need to think through what works in which situations and look for the right solutions that should be available.
Correct.
One last thing that I would add up over here is identifying the right test automation solution at times, because you see, I've been continuously talking about budget, and when we have those discussions, people come back and say, Selenium is free and I've learned it online and we would be able to do this and do that and all. So don't do things just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah,
Understand,
that's
what is it that we want to do. Identify the right solutions that apply for your problem area, and figure out what has to be done. So invest more time in strategizing, putting a design of your framework together, identifying the right tools, the right skills that are available, and then go for it.
I think those are very valid points, and I think a lot of people while will be able to make a lot of sense out of this. We have a lot of questions coming in, Ritu, and and uh, and a lot of pre-collected questions are also pending. So what I will do now is I will divide the remaining time into two sections: one on career for testers in automation and other stuff, and one on a topic which we cannot ignore right now is AI. Okay, so AI is a topic which on which questions come in every discussion. So we can't ignore it. So I'll divide this into two parts now. The first part is on careers. Okay, uh, like you said, T-shaped. Uh, is T-shaped the answer to having a T-shaped skill? Is the answer to striking the ideal balance between generalizing their skills across various tools and technologies while also specializing in a specific area, or is there any other way you recommend people to go ahead with automation in their careers?
See,
Because too many tools, should they become generalists, should they become specialists, what kind of approach they should take in?
see, I'm not much a fan of T-shape or full stack engineers. In my thought process, you really need to understand the problem area or the product wherein you are working and what sort of skills apply. If it needs a small involvement looking at different areas as well, might be testing, I might be a UI testing, however it requires me to test at the backend validations, at the mainframe system as well, I should be good to do that. And we really cannot call it as a holistic, or that I'm doing all of these aspects. But if my job requires that, I should be good to learn. So how I would put it up here is, people need to understand the context. We really cannot restrict that I am a UI tester, I'll not do this or I'll not do that. See, if my product demands, we have to be open to learn new things. Because if my product requires a very minor, like there are two or three APIs only, I'm really not going to add one more API tester over here, because my entire project is on UI. And
Correct.
somebody can be learning the things and still doing it. Don't look through things via a tunnel. I would say be open to explore new things, and you never know. Like me, you may be able to make out a career out of API testing as well, which I started
Correct.
on exploratory note. So learn to stay open to new things. Don't remain constant that, I'll test it out only the PC applications. I'll not go into
Absolutely.
mobile applications, or I'll not test it out this, or I'll not go into backend, or I'll not. So stay open, and it will give you a different exposure. There could be an
Correct.
aspect of the application you might be facing, that the application is going slow. Try to understand what is going through. It could be areas related to performance, but that will actually give you a better understanding of how that application is working. So have those
Correct.
right dialogue to understand what needs to be done. Don't just focus only onto that small area that you are working upon. Stay open to opportunities that come through.
I think while it is very applicable for QA in general, testing in general, but I think that's applicable for all the fields at
Yes,
at any stage of your career you should be open to learning new things and should not put yourself in a tunnel, like you said. Where
always. Not
always.
initial, always. I
Okay,
would say
always.
always.
That's what I said. That's what I said initially. Initially, for sure, always. Let's say, if there are people who understand it, okay, I want to specialize in this only, then they might end up tunneling themselves. But essentially, I am a journalist myself, so I also recommend people to be open while taking their career choices. Okay, this is a question from a show which I'll take right now on just on the careers. How do I show this on stage? Okay. This is from Ashok Kumar, who's head QE at TransUnion in Chennai. Um, how does a QA professional transform and grow in the longer run in their career? Because as we grow in the longer run, the pyramid gets more narrower and there are fewer opportunities at leadership role. Okay. Career, would you suggest we continue to grow with the QA team or in an engine domain? Or would you recommend taking a more diversified role as product owners, product managers, or things like that? So this is a question from Ashok on how does a QA progress their career?
See, how I take it is stay open in life. While I love testing as much as I do, I have done it. Staying open to multiple opportunities will always give you a different perspective on what you want to do, or probably it will give you a clarity on what you don't want to do. And you would be able to explore what are your priority areas. Because a lot of time, I have seen people that they want to remain stuck, or they want to remain, I would say, very much defined in a particular area that they are working upon. See, but everybody has to understand the way tech landscape has been changing and the way it has been dynamic. You never know, that might be a beginning of new era or new things, and you'll never know until you try. See, you can always try. If you don't like, you can come back, you can grow in other opportunities as well. And coming back to, Ashok's question, from testing to product owner, if that interests you, I would say you should definitely pursue that. You might be flourishing over there.
God. Yeah, that's what is typically we also recommend people that always keep exploring more opportunities, not just be more focused into Cuba, and you can look at more opportunities. This is a question. This is a slightly digression which I'm taking right now, but since this is a very different topic altogether, not in terms of the different in terms of the sequence you're following, but still I'll ask this question. Uh, what is your opinion on BD? Have you had any opportunity to work with teams where three amigos contributed to the BD? I think that's a little digression, but I think it is important to take this question.
Uh, what is your opinion on BDD? Have you had any opportunity to work with the teams where three amigos contributed to BDD?
Amol
I
asked this
think
question.
since Amol, I would say since some time, I'm not very closely working with the teams to help them out onto the tech aspect of it. But a lot of my teams have been leveraging the behavioral driven, data driven framework, and the uh, pros that I have observed is it's pretty easy for the product people, and in fact the developers also, to get onboarded. Specifically, I don't think I'll be able to answer you regarding the three amigos that you have asked. I'm not working in that area.
God, that's not a problem. Okay, now I'll ask this. Now I'll move into our AI section of this discussion. Okay, and typically now I'm starting all my podcast discussions with this initial anecdote. Okay, uh, Kunal Shah, the CEO of Cred, recently hosted Kailash Nath, the city of Zerodha, at a podcast. He asked, okay, AI till earlier used to take largely blue collar jobs, but this is the first time they've attacked the tech industry in general, and the attack is a fairly deadly one. The AI attack, the tech attack. Okay, so how do you see the influence of AI into testing in general? That's my first question to you.
Well, this topic is pretty hot and you really can't escape this. See, while things are clearly maturing, in AI ML landscape, the domain is still evolving. I see, in fact, from past 10 years, we have been talking around it. But when it comes to the practical work or the core things that we work upon, okay, we are still evaluating on how effective it is. In my experience, in fact, I have seen a lot of research and development teams that we have established that would be working in exploring the AI ML, particularly the ML scenarios, analyzing the data, and coming up with, solutions regarding, instead of this entire test suite, maybe you can test it out a certain percentage. My algorithm will give you that output. But the question that I have is regarding this prioritization that the AI solution is giving me. How confident are you around this? What is the kind of risk you are taking? What is the what is your product demands? Can you actually go to the market while without with not executing that 50% of the automated tests that you have? What are the risks that you are taking up? You really need to think through. You want to invest in, exploring those solutions, but none of these solutions are 100% reliable. And how much risk appetite you have that you can take while you are going to the market, and you can sustain your business. See, effectively, again, it boils down to your revenues and how much risk you are willing to take up. So that's where I have seen, while we are investing heavily in research aspect of these areas, but there is still a hesitancy around, the confidence levels and, the relevancy. So we are still working conservatively at the ground level, while a lot of research we do. But when it comes to, strengthening up our testing, we still rely on, let me go with, at times the managers, they come to me and they say, while we are running short of time and we should be executing 60% of our tests, and we have, based on these solutions, we have done the prioritization, but I think let's call the team over the weekend and execute rest of it. I feel more confident. Now, see, that reliability factor comes into the picture.
But Ritu, I like to interrupt you here. It's Isn't that also a reflection of the lack of decision making of the stakeholder, that he or he is not able to take that decision? Okay, I will
Yes.
just execute X% of cases, and because 100% cases is everybody's shot, right? You're taking all possible shots there, and there is no risk at all. So if you're not able to take a call, that, okay, I will not do 100%, I'll do X%, where X is less than 100. Isn't that a reflection of the lack of decision making of the person there?
Absolutely. As I said, how confident you are onto your own solutions or the work done by the team, and how much risk appetite you have to go further. So that depends
Correct.
how much confidence we have on our efforts spent by our teams.
But then that but we'll enter into philosophical zone. That's also then about how the culture of the company has propagated from the
True.
top, right? That
Yes.
how tolerant are they for mistakes in general? So
Exactly. Do we have that kind of a culture wherein people are open to create new things and experiment new things? Do we have that learning kind of a culture, or we are very, unidirectional, and we don't want to take any chances and we'll do things? So see that for failure tolerance also defines. So it is a lot specific to the culture of the organization as well. Ashutosh, I can't see you. Hey, Ashutosh.
yeah, sorry too. I'm back.
No, no worries. We picked up next question from the chat. How to give the time estimation for during testing or automation of a feature. See, usually every organization or a team, they have their standard guidelines or frameworks on how they want to estimate, and that keeps on evolving. See, there are no, you know, uh, very black and white kind of limits. These practices evolve over the time. The more mature the organization is in their automation capabilities, the more accurately they would be able to estimate. And further, as we all know, estimations also are given as per the average capabilities of people. People are smart enough, they would be able to do it early, or the feature if is complex, they may need certain time. So things evolve over the time, and there are different techniques also that are available to estimate properly.
Got it. I think that's helpful. Uh, I had one more question on AI in general. Okay. Okay, yeah. I think this might be the last or second last question which we'll take. So, is it about? It's about now with the evolution of generative AI, LLMs becoming more powerful. Uh, what would be your top three advices for automation engineers to remain? Uh, I think they'll remain relevant. Okay, but for the sake of clickbaitness, what your top three advices to automation engineers to stay relevant and continue to grow?
Quite interesting. I always tell people, see, the environment you are working in is dynamically changing, and in fact, the way things have evolved in past 5 years or so, that is altogether different than what we used to test it out. And now, when I'm in gaming zone, things are absolutely different, and coming with the VR and all, things have evolved like anything.
Yeah,
So the top advice that I would say is keep learning, stay up to date with what is happening in the market, invest in yourself, invest in your learning, understand, what are the new things that are coming up in the market. Of course, the zone wherein you are working is also demanding, and at times while working onto complex scenarios and balancing out your personal life as well, you might not get time, but you need to prioritize your own learning curve, and you need to keep few hours a week or few hours a month wherein you are learning, you are investing on yourself to stay up to date with what is happening. Second thing, stay focused. Look beyond the obvious, how things appear. Don't just jump around things here and there and conclude, oh my god, I am an automation tester, this is what I am expected to do. See, automation testers also have to spend time to understand the application,
correct.
understand the flow, how the transactions are happening, if it is a credit or debit, other third parties getting if money is getting credited here, is it getting debited over there, how the entire flow happens, what are the third parties that are involved. Spend some time, stay focused, give more time to understand the area that you are working upon. And that's where the third thing is, understand the problem domain, the solutions that exist, and then try to marry them accordingly. Don't do it like a matchmaker, because I have to learn this, I'll opt for the solution, I'll work only onto this tool. Don't remain adamant over there. Understand the problem statement, the problem that you are trying to solve could be done a very very straight simple solution. You really don't have to make it complicated. Try to keep it simple. So keep your eyes and ears open and listen to what people are saying around you, because they have been working with the product since a long time. So understand what are their core problem statements, wherein the most of the defects that occur, so that you are trying to address exactly the problems that they are looking forward to solve, and not automating rest of the stuff, but the core problems remain as such. So you get to listen to your stakeholders or the clients or people who have been working onto the product.
So I'll take one last question and we can address this in quick time. Okay, the question is okay. I think that's a typical question which people uh, have to answer themselves. Is as they progress in their career, what's the track they should take? Should they stay as an individual contributor or should they pick the managerial role? So again, the classic dichotomy which an industry has. So what's your take on this? And
See,
this is also a question from if I'll do credit to him also. Is from Ganesh Mani. So same question. I just rephrased it smaller.
I would say today in the market, ample of opportunities are available, whether you are working in IC role or in a managerial capacity. Do a self reflection and identify your strengths, because if you are good at something, Things will naturally flow in place and you'll be able to grow further in that role. For example, naturally you are a problem solver and you love to keep exploring things, stay up to date in the market, but you like to do your own stuff. You don't want to get too much into the people aspect of it. You will definitely grow as a solution advisor or somebody who's helping out with solving the problems more as an IC role. However,
Correct.
you are somebody who can, just talk to people and get the problem solved like this. You're basically a
Correct.
people person. You can get the team along and get everybody onto the common ground and let the team succeed. So you are basically meant for more people oriented roles wherein you have to do more dealing with people. So there is not any right answer. We need to evaluate our own strengths, and that gives us an idea where we want to grow. Possibilities, you have ample of opportunities in both the areas, because the way these individual systems are getting connected. I may
Correct.
be initiating a transaction on my laptop, and somebody may be approving it on some other device, or the kind of interconnected world we are in, and the complexity of the systems is getting increasing day by day. We have scope for tech savvy individual contributor roles as well as people managers. However, one thing that I always tell people is, whether you are growing in an IC role or in people role. In IC role, never think that you don't have to deal with people. See, we are working with people.
That's
We
very true.
definitely get to deal with people, and we have to figure out a way wherein we get our things done, because we cannot say I'm working in an IC role, I'll not talk to anyone. No, you have to do your part.
That's
So
true.
you really can't run away from that.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. And I'll just take this liberty to add a qualifier to what you said. There are ample opportunities available, but there are ample opportunities available for skilled people in general. So you have to be. So today's market is very competitive, cutthroat competition, and
Yes.
the macro environment is not very healthy right now, and we need to be very up in your game in general to be available to the market. That's the qualifier which I wanted to. I think we can end this here, Ritu. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Ritu, for doing this with us. It was a pleasure chatting with you as a host, and I hope you had similar fun chatting with me.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thanks, everyone. Pleasure is mine. It's always a great learning out of every interaction we have.
Correct. That's
I
true.
love
That's true.
I love today's conversation.
Thank you, Ritu, and thank you everyone for tuning in once again. Thank you.
Thank you.